Okay, so for today's session, what we want to do is to get really deep into the open water diver program and to make sure that when you have your first students after the course and you are in the situation that you start to work somewhere and all of a sudden you have your first real full course and you have never done one on your own before, that you don't get completely overwhelmed by how do I organize all this, but that you understand how this course works, how you can prepare for it, and like what you are expected to do, and that you're able to prepare a standard conform open water course in very different conditions as well, because we work in different environments. So maybe you work in a dive center where you have access to a pool and do the pool training like really in a legit pool, or probably you work in a center like here where you do everything directly in the ocean, or you might work in a place when you're in Germany where you start in an indoor center and then from there move out for some dives in open water. And like you should be able to organize that and understand what you're doing. So the official SSI learning objectives, as you already know from the micro teachings, we always need to have this in the beginning of our presentations. So the official version is you are able to describe the aim of the Open Water Diver program. You can give at least 3 reasons why students start the Open Water Diver course. And you can list the three responsibilities of an open water instructor towards their students. But for me, honestly, a little bit more important is you understand the structure of this course and you understand how the different parts of this course, which is like the basic diver and then the scuba diver and then the open water diver, work together as one system where you can easily go from one part to the next. And you can really use this flexible system in your training because you can adjust the course to what the students actually need in this moment. So you can open your microphones and you can write in the chat whatever you want. What is an open water diver? How would you define an open water diver?
I'd say an open water diver is an autonomous diver who's allowed to go diving in an, for him, comfortable environment, say calm seas, calm lakes, up to his allowed maximum depth, so 80 meters with a buddy of same or higher levels, sorry.
More? This was probably already so perfect that there's not very much to add, honestly, because this was like a very sophisticated answer.
There's certainly more to add to it. I mean, autonomous diver doesn't mean necessarily that the person is completely capable of doing everything on his or her own. They just basically know their equipment for the entry-level diving to assemble it themselves. Everything else like emergency handling and such will come later, obviously.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. So we have like one common ground, which is like comparable to all open water programs or all first star entry-level programs in all the diving organizations, because we have an ISO standard for this certification, which you already mentioned to be the autonomous diver. Autonomous diver, I mean, you can always add an R. It's like an autonomous driver. Yeah, when you do your driving license, you are able to drive a car now on your own. You can do that. You're allowed to. You have your driving license. But the first year of driving is really dangerous. There's like a reason why the insurance for a young driver is a little bit higher than of the insurance for an experienced driver. In diving, we have it a little bit easier because accidents are less likely to happen, a lot less likely to happen than on the road. And simple mistakes do not lead into catastrophic accidents as it can do in car traffic. So, but it's comparable that you're not a perfect diver, or you're not like an experienced, well-trained who knows everything. What you have is exactly this level, that you are trained to do everything that's needed to do a safe dive in with buddies of your own level, but in an environment that you already know, or where you at least know how to dive in these conditions. And you should like be a little bit careful, because you know that you yourself are not yet able to handle real emergencies or stuff. We did not train this yet. So we have this, you dive under conditions that are equal or better than the conditions where they were trained for. When you want to experience something new, you should do it with someone who can give you an additional level of safety. It can be an instructor, it can be a dive master, it can be a person who is simply experienced in this specific place and knows this place and these conditions very well. There is a recommended maximum depth of 20 meters. This is very, very important, because you hear a lot of people saying that, oh no, as an open water diver, you are not qualified to dive deeper than 18 meters. And this is simply not true. There is a recommendation that before you get more experience and training, you should stay you should stay at less than 20. But this does not mean that a year later, and 30 dives later, 50 dives later, 100 dives later, you necessarily need another certification for going deeper. You just need more experience and or training, like find a way to get deeper in a safe way. It does not need to be the deep diver course. We want to sell this course, but not with this argument. And yeah, you're not yet trained to do decompression stops. So for sure, yeah, stay inside the no decompression limit. And here as well, in this, it states very clear that if accompanied by a scuba instructor, you may gain progressive experience. And this is exactly where all the continuous education programs come in, because it's basically not, you don't learn so much more in the next programs, except the rescue diver, but you just get a little bit more experience and a little bit better skills in things where you have the foundations already in the open water course. So the open water course is an really, 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 really important course. It's because it's like it sets the rest of your diving career. And this is why a big part of the instructor course circles around the open water diver. And it's like we do a lot of skill training, which is all this open water diver skills. Why? There are not very much more specific skills. The only other specific skills are the rescue skills that we include as well, because they play now, after some changes in the SSI instructor evaluation, you might be asked to teach rescue skills as well, because we want to make sure that any instructor is really confident as well with the rescue course, which is the next one where you learn actually new skills. All the other courses only refine skills you already started to learn in your open water course. You started like this discussion, Alexandra. You're still not expected to be really like proficient on your own or dive like perfectly well. Is this, how would you all see this point? Are you, as an open water diver, like really fully trained, or are you missing parts that you really need in order to be able to dive the way you're supposed to dive as an autonomous diver?
think there's a lot of missing. The water conditions need to be assessed. So as an starting open water diver, even with, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 dives, 70 dives, you may still experience a lot of conditions that you're not familiar with yet, because maybe you've been sticking to your local lakes, as we often have to do in Germany, or if you're a holiday diver, you're probably only used to very calm ocean conditions, always close proximity to a reef, or even with under guidance of a guide or more experienced divers in your group. So there's plenty to learn. And when you're released with the open water certification into the water, you're in no ways, well, you basically have to stick to calm conditions and to the conditions that you're comfortable with and that you basically have been trained in. Anything else will come later with training. As you said, in car driving, I love this comparison, by the way. In car driving, it's also if you drive only your way to work every morning and every afternoon the way back, you're perfectly confident with those conditions. But let's imagine you go into the big city that you have never been to, and you're distracted by lots of other things like the traffic, maybe the road signs in a different language. Then more and more task loading will come up to you and might actually get you into real trouble if you lack any kind of knowledge that you may still learn when you join a specialty, for example. And this is a nice way to explain to the students too, and to sell them specialties, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like your big city comparison, because I immediately thought about, like, I did drive like in Mexico City and in Kiev, like with Cyrillic letters.
Oh my
Which
goodness.
I could not read it fast enough, as fast as I was driving. So it's like I started to decipher, but it's like, whoa, that takes time. So yeah, another level of experience, and it was very good that I did not have to think about how to handle the car anymore, not at all. And that was very helpful, but with 18 years and the new driving license, I would just have parked at the right side, left the car, and disappeared crying or something like this. Huh? More comments. You can simply open your microphone.
Perhaps there's also to add that the open water diver that has just began learning diving can obviously not know about the dangers. So if I'd say, oh, there's a cute little wreck, there's nothing dangerous about it, let's go and check it out, my open water buddy can simply not know what kind of risks or dangers this dive may bring up to him. He doesn't, or she doesn't know. Well, can we maybe agree on not gendering, because I think it takes up a lot of time. If that's okay for you guys, I obviously always include female and male genders in all my talking.
Yeah.
I can't stand the gender thing, because I'm a female myself. I do feel very female, but I don't, I'm not feeling any kind of less of a female if I don't include females in my everyday talk. So here we go. If I gonna go with a scuba diver and that person does not know about the risks, as an open water diver, I think even if you're very comfortable with your equipment, you've done your 50, 60 dives, and you're comfortable with maybe already some sort of different scenarios, different water conditions, you still might not be prepared for any kind of risks that you have never heard about. Let's say overhead environments, entanglement, and such things. Maybe strong currents, because a drag lies a little bit deeper than 10, 15 meters. It is, say, 17, 18, 20 meters. And we're going to go and check it out. And that newish diver has never experienced a risk that they don't know yet. And in this condition, it might become dangerous too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like we have like quite a good amount of examples now, because it's like when you're ready as an open water diver, you know all these basics, but you have no experience yet, and you do not have the criteria to take the very best decisions of your life. There's like a lot of examples where people like learn to dive, somewhere in a shorty, in 30-degree water, in nice conditions. They come back to Germany super motivated, like, yeah, we want to go diving here as well, which is absolutely nice, but you cannot just drop in the water with your open water buddy who has no experience in cold water, because people actually do get into serious accidents from this. So this is the moment where you as a diver have to realize that this is something where you need a little bit more training, or you need guidance from a dive guide, another experienced diver, so someone who can show you around here. And like our obligation when we teach open water divers is to create a little bit of awareness about what they are able to do, what they are used to by their training, what are the things they still lack. So here, for example, we have a lot of people coming who did learn to dive in Germany and who are convinced that you can only in Germany, you can learn properly to dive, and only in Germany we have the best diving schools ever, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And yeah, well, they have been in a pool and they've been in a cold, dark lake, which is very challenging, but they have never had water movement. And then we want to get into the water and out of the water with a little bit of waves and a little bit of current, like nothing that we consider bad conditions at all. But the tiniest wave can just blow them away because they just don't understand what this is yet. So wherever we are and wherever we teach, we have to prepare our students for that they will encounter new situations throughout their diving career, and that they are trained to handle them, but not all of them. And like judging the conditions is not what they are trained to yet, and that they really should search a little bit more training beyond open water diver to make sure that they can get a lot more enjoyable diving experiences. New divers, how do people get into diving? This is like maybe so as different as the divers are. There are a couple of people who have this plan that in some moment they want to learn diving, and then they look out for a diving school and they book a course and do this. But a lot of people just for accidentally get into it because a friend told them about it, because they do a try dive and just realize they absolutely love it. Some people have a plan behind it. Some people even start open water diving and say, yeah, my aim is to go into caves. And this is a long way, and I did inform myself very well, and I have to start somewhere. But my aim is I later want to dive lakes, dive caves. Yeah. So people can have absolutely very different interests and very different starting positions. And we need, but we need to teach them all like the same course. And the challenge is sometimes to do the course in the appropriate way for this person and use the freedom that we have in the course structure to adjust a little bit towards what is most needed for this specific person. Yeah. Some might learn faster, some might learn slower, some might need a little bit more help, some will be perfect from the beginning, and you think you could put so much more in the course, and then you can add a little bit of challenge. So make sure they do get the most training we can have in this course. So this is I think your responsibility is supervision. You make sure that you never ever leave a student alone underwater. That's like until they are certified, they are not responsible for what they are doing, and you are responsible to make sure they are safe in any moment. So one of these very, very important points, we had this already in the in the skill training sessions that when we talk about the ascents, for example, that you have this logic puzzle about how do I organize all this in a way that no student is alone underwater. And yeah, this is like your duty of supervision and making sure that you control the situation at any moment. You have to evaluate the level of the student. So when you see them doing a skill, you decide if this is already a level of mastery. So if they can do this and can repeat this and are able to do this in real life diving situations, like for example, the difficult case taking off the mask, or if they only manage to do this like once with big problems, and you are absolutely not sure if you ask them again to do it tomorrow, if they will be able to do it. We often have this with mask problems, yeah, and there is a big part of training behind to make sure that before you issue the certification, you know that everything they have to do is working. It doesn't have to be perfect. You will find out, like with the time, where to set the limit. But if you ask yourself if this is really enough, it might not be. So trust a little bit your feeling. If you're afraid of giving someone the certification, and if you're afraid with the thought that this person can now just go with a buddy and dive around, and you think like, oh no, like even if I had to guide this person, this is still a lot of work, and for me as a guide this is no fun with someone like this person, they are not ready for the water certification yet. Like they should at least be able to follow a guide in a buddy team. That's if they can manage to do this, it's fine. But if you doubt that they can do this, you don't certify them yet, at least not as open water divers. There are lower levels and there are escapes. Yeah, and then when you are sure that everything is fine, you certify this new diver. And this does mean that you sign that this person is now able to do all the skills and is now able to dive. If the next dive, something happens to this person, your training records will be in the game. You will have to show and to prove that you did everything that you have to do in the course. So we have we have a look on the actual training records and all this administration stuff in another moment. But now we want to focus more on what is this course and how do we prepare for it? How do we actually do it? It's a little bit as most of you are in the moment not really willing to talk. I will cut a little bit into of the activities, but give you like some things that we should talk about when we are together, that we should think about a little bit more. And some of and I will start give you some of the important examples and try to get a little bit more out of you, but not exaggerated. So the general view on the open water program. We have what I think makes it a lot easier to understand is if we think about as a modular system. It's not like one block and you have to do all this, but it has like several components, several parts, which are that you like start with the introduction with the basic diver, then continue to scuba diver and the skills that belong to the scuba diver, and then do the missing part for the open water diver. it does not mean you have to do the course like this, but you know that all these courses are like each of these courses is a part of the other. So it's like a flexible system where if someone just does a part of this course, it can easily connect with the next dive center, with the next holidays, with the next part. And there are like we do have some standards about in which order we have to do things, but we have as well quite a lot of flexibility. So when we have like the skills list for confined training, we can absolutely change the order of the skills in a way that makes it easier for us to include them in a nice dive, or like to not having to move from the shallow part to the deep part and back to the shallow part and back to the deep part of the pool. But we organize it in a way that we can do a sequence of skills, then maybe move a little bit, then have another sequence of skills, move a little bit again, and put skills together that make sense together. One example from my side, for example, we have a skill which is disconnecting the inflator hose. And we have another skill that is orally inflating your BCD. And the main reason why someone has to orally inflate the BCD is because they did disconnect the inflator hose, because they had a self-inflating BCD, for example, which was like a little bit common on La Palma because of this dark magnetic sand. So it does make sense to do these two skills together. We disconnect the inflator hose, connect it again, and then we do the oral inflation, because this way it keeps stuck in the brain of the student that, when I have to do this, I have to do this as well. And they kind of belong together. So that makes absolute sense. Do you have any other example, or do you have any idea what else could make a good connection of skills?
Yeah, sorry, I was just activating my microphone because I just had something to add to the oral inflation of the BCG, but it's not really close to the subject, so I'll pass on that one. Maybe someone else has got good examples?
Yeah, if there are none, maybe other examples like for doing things in a little bit of a logical way of it's for example, it's always a good idea to avoid to go up and down and up and down and up and down too much when you train descents and ascents. So at the end of every dive, we do a controlled ascent anyway. We can do a simulated safety stop even if we have not been deep, just at the end of a normal dive. And it's not a skill that we will include somewhere in, oh, we do a confined session and now we hang around somewhere, but more that we include it in like a normal dive as a normal routine. That when we have to do an air sharing ascent in open water, yeah, we simply do it at the end of the dive when we go up anyway, at least for one of the pairs. So we do not add too many extra ascents if we can avoid this. We can use buoyancy skills to get into neutral buoyancy and then actually start to move and start to dive a little bit. It's not a good idea on the other side to do like 5 mask skills one after the other, like do the half mask, do the full mask, then take the mask off, can be just a little bit too much for a lot of people, because then you got like water in your eyes 3 times in a row, which can hurt. So separate this a little bit. So where I want to get to is a lot of freedom in how to organize your skills. And you do not have to follow exactly how it's written down in the skill sessions. You can move your skills. You just have to make sure that you have some things done before the next ones. You find all this in the standards, and you will go through the standards and get these things very, very clear. This is like one important task for you. But when the sequence, or what you have to do in which moment, gets quite clear and quite obvious as well when we look at the parts of the open water diver. So we have here limited open water is for sure confined open water in proper English. This was DeepL, and I didn't see it. So in the open water course, we have you do know the manual, and we have the 6 chapters of digital learning. We can do some workshops, and people now do the final exam as well already online. We have confined open water training, where we do train all the skills. All the skills have to be once in confined water. Not one skill you do in open water that you did not train in confined water. This is a very general rule which will be with you for the whole training, up to technical diving, whatever. Any new skill, anything you have not done before, is trained first in a confined environment. Makes sense, right? It's like basic logic, basic human decency, no? But this is very good to know, because it as well means we have the open water the open water dives with a total of a minimum of 4 dives, where we repeat most of the skills. Some not. Some are exclusively confined skills. We do not take off our BCD in open water, and we do not take off our weight belt in open water, and we do not do an emergency buoyant ascent in open water. And we might decide not to do an emergency swimming ascent in open water. But everything else, yes. And I think it's very obvious as well that we never do a skill in an open water dive that we have not done before in confined, which gives you already some hints for how to organize it. Yeah, we have a nice division for what an assistant instructor can do. So basically, Diana, like one more micro teaching in the day tomorrow, will be able to do a big part of the open water course already. An assistant instructor is allowed to do the whole theory and is allowed to do nearly the whole confined training. The only exception are the emergency ascents. And an assistant instructor can guide the tour part of the course and guide a little tour with maximum 2 students. So the open water, the instructor has to perform all the ascents and has to do all the skills in open water, but not necessarily do the whole dive and the whole tour with the students. And this leads to that we can really share courses in a very nice way between an assistant instructor and an instructor, with instructor being in the water like for 2 full dives and probably for like 10 minutes in the beginning of some dive. And then the assistant instructor can continue while the instructor does something else. And an assistant instructor is able to gain a lot of experience already with this. So it's something I like, because it gives you a lot of freedom to get into bringing a lot of experience with you when you go to the final instructor course and to the instructor evaluation. And whatever happens in the instructor exam is absolutely nothing compared with what real students do with you. So you are prepared and absolutely decently prepared. Huh? If you have a look now in, do you have access to a phone to your SSI app where you can open the open water course? And because if we look together at the open water diver course program, try to find it on your app, try to open it, try to see the chapter overview, and let's have a look together on which things we talk about in which part of the course. You see this very first chapter, and the very first chapter is about, I'm just opening it as well, tuck English. I'm just switching language, which is not that easy. Yeah, okay, I have to open it in German. Okay, so we have this very first chapter, which is about your body and the underwater environment. How would you describe this first chapter? Who needs to know this, or for what dive is this necessary to read before, like, or which skills work well with the knowledge of only this very first chapter? Like, imagine a person like signs up already for the course, and you meet, and this person did only read this very first chapter up to now. Which are the skills that make sense to train already?
To equalize?
Definitely.
The breathing as well, so people know what to expect. Yeah, just have a guess what to expect. They haven't been underwater yet. The general order of it says about the briefing, it says about the dive planning with the computer, and also the equipment and the logging of the dive logs of the dive.
Oh, that's not in the first chapter yet.
Not in the chapter 1, the water communication. Yeah, you're right. I slipped in a row. Yeah.
The first is really simply like communication, like the basic first standard hand signs, and it's not even the scuba equipment explained too much. It's like a little bit of like the snorkeling, only the snorkeling system, not the rest of all this equipment. So like the first chapter is the one that comes with a try scuba or with a basic diver, with the very, very, very first course. And the students still did not understand too much about actual scuba diving skills. So the first chapter links completely to try scuba and basic diver. And it's really difficult if someone has only read the first chapter. You do have a lot of work to explain. If you want to do more skills already, you have a lot more work to explain those skills and to explain why we do this and how this works, because they did not read anything about it yet. It comes in chapter 2 that they learn about their equipment. And once they did read this, like with chapter 2, we are happy to do a lot of skills already, because then we can set up the equipment, assemble the equipment, do a proper body check, disassemble the equipment, wash the equipment. We can use our gear, so we can recover the regulator, we can take off the mask, we can like do things that explain themselves quite well already, and we can play with buoyancy because they did learn already about buoyancy. And it's just like with the third chapter that you have like everything that has to do with gases. There is not very much more in the third chapter that is about skills and abilities. So basically, when someone managed to read the first two chapters, you're fine to go with at least all the skills that are needed for the scuba diver. So the first half of skills. The perfect version is that when you first go to the water and they want to do the full open water course and you want to start to train skills, that you have them read the first 3 chapters already. So you have like a solid foundations of knowledge. But if it's only chapter 1 and 2, you're fine. You don't have to, you still have to explain everything. Your explication will be a little bit easier because your students do have some information already. Yeah. So section 1, 2, and 3 together is the theory that makes up that is included in the scuba diver course. What is missing in these first 3 chapters? So what they do know even about nitrogen narcosis. So they do learn about decompression. All that's in chapter 3. Yeah? So what exactly is now missing to be an open water diver with this amount of knowledge already? You can as well, if you don't want to turn on the microphone, you can type something in the chat and just like just some short comment.
For me, typing takes too long, so I'll just open up my microphone again. I think the person is just missing the understanding of what I'm talking about. They're missing the feeling in the water. If I tell them, okay, when we're gonna descend and ascend, you can control your buoyancy by pressing this and this button, but they don't actually have the real feel for it just yet.
Yeah.
They can have the theory, yes, but to experience it physically, to know what does it look like when I go up and down, or how does it feel like, okay, I have to do the equalization, but the moment they realize their ears starting to feel the pressure, that's different than anything I can tell them in a course.
Yeah, but that's like that's like abilities that they will then train with you already in the scuba diver course part. So in the very first dives, after doing the pool training for the scuba diver and the first 2 open water dives, they will be able to feel that. So, but like when you look at what they are lacking of theory, what is missing to have this full autonomous diver status? There is basically one very, very important part that comes in the last 3 chapters, which is everything about dive planning and executing a dive on your own with your body, and not only being with an instructor or with a professional. And that's the theory that is included in the second part, like in chapter 4, 5, and 6. There's a little bit of the aquatic environment and about fishes as well, but a lot like about how to plan a dive and how to go diving with your body. And this is exactly the part that is completely missing in the scuba diver part, because a scuba diver is not yet allowed to dive without a body. So the sequence is basically, we have for the open water diver, we have the basic diver, which is confined water 1 and open water 1. FS open water, translation error as well again. You can do this without, you can do this 2 dives, the first confined session and the first open water session, you can do this before people even start to read anything. So if someone does a try dive, a basic diver try dive, and then signs up for the course, this can fully count as the first confined and the first open water dive already. And then you have to finish theory chapters 1, 2, 3, and the next 2 confined water sessions. So you have to finish all the confined training that is necessary to complete the scuba diver before you do open water dive number 2. Why? Because now you do skills in open water that are in this part of training. So you have to train this in confined water before, as we said. And before you do this last 2 open water dives, number 3 and 4, you have to finish all the confined water, and you have to finish the theory, because it does not make sense that they do the open water dives or some open water dives while they did not train yet the last skills, and they just cannot put into practice what they learned in confined water because they did not do it already. So this is like the sequence. That's the only things that we can get out of the standards about how to organize the course, that there are certain limits. Some things have to be finished before the others. But with this done, we have some freedom to move. The very first we said already is the basic diver, which is still a part of the acquisition programs. It's not really appropriate certification. It is a nice little experience. You do one dive, your instructor takes care for you. You don't have to do anything on your own. You just get this experience. This can level up to the scuba diver. And the scuba diver is this certification, which is a little bit underrated, I would say, because the scuba diver follows as well an ISO norm, by the way. There is this ISO for a supervised diver, not autonomous diver. It means a scuba diver cannot go diving with another scuba diver. Definitely not. They do not have the skills to go on their own. They still have to go with a dive professional. It can be a dive guide. It doesn't have to be an instructor, but it has to be a dive professional. And the maximum depth are 12 meters. This maximum depth is not so much of a recommendation. That's more a kind of strict limit, because you did definitely not do the training yet that leads to you being autonomous enough and planning your own dive. And for this part of training, getting some proof is important. So if you go with a professional as a scuba diver, the professional has to stay at 12 meters with you, unless the professional is an instructor who just does the next steps of training with you. Then for sure you can keep going. And the scuba diver is sometimes seen like a not complete or not full certification. And some people do the scuba diver when you only have one more day in your holidays, but after one day doing the basic diver, you really want to do a little bit more, and you can reach the scuba diver level with this last day you have left in your holidays. That's like an option. It can be a very good option for kids 10 and 11, because they are not allowed to dive deeper than 12 meters anyway. And the theory is really still complicated for them because they do not have the background from school yet. So there it can make sense to just say, okay, let's do the scuba diver. And then we just do some nice fun dives. And then when you're a little bit older, you level up to open water diver.
Vero,
Yeah.
quick question. Is there a time limit on how long after the scuba diver certification they can level up to open water diver?
No, you can do this forever, but when you get a scuba diver who wants to continue to open water, you will have to make sure they still are able to do all the skills, which in practice means when you did your scuba diver a year ago, you add one dive to repeat all the scuba diver stuff before you actually start to continue.
And that one dive with all the exercises being shown by that student candidate is sufficient to qualify him for continuing education.
Yeah. But there is a little bit up to you if you see in this repetition that you cannot do all the skills in one dive because they just freak out and you're treating other problems in the beginning, or like you find out it's not possible like this, then you have to adjust. Because at the end, they need to be able to do everything that's needed in the open water course. And for sure, before you repeat things in open water, you make sure it's all there, still there in confined water. So you will do like a scuba skills update in a way to make sure that they are confident with their skills before you continue. Like, it's a very good question because for sure people forget, but it's easier if they once learned it decently well. A year after, they did forget things, but they gain it back really fast. You remind them about how it worked, and they do it. It can work very, very smooth. Like, no, not a big problem normally.
It's a really good thing for kids though, because they probably gonna go with their parents anyway on holidays and gonna go with a guide. They can keep this kind of knowledge, and kids learn fast anyway, but so they can become a scuba diver within a couple of years after.
Yeah, and it's like you can and every time when you level up to open water, you get a reminder of everything. So you just repeat things which, like, for a kid who did not understand it all fully in the scuba diver, because with 11 that's a lot. Has like the next when they do the next step, they are a little bit older and they already understand a little bit more. So it makes it really smart. And maybe it is as well not a bad certification for people. There are a lot of people who do not regularly dive, but once a year when they are in their summer holidays, they want to go diving for a day or two as well. So they will never be really autonomous divers. They will always be like this kind of people where you have to take care for and you don't really understand what they are doing. And if this is what people want to do, the scuba diver can be even the better certification. And because dive centers have to take care for them. And as they are, even if they finish the open water course in one moment, you can definitely never send them out diving on their own in a buddy team. This will not happen. And to make sure that centers don't even try that, it can make sense that they only have the scuba diver qualification, because it as well stops centers from doing too much with them. And maybe 18, 20, and then you always go a little bit deeper, is too much when you only go diving for 2 dives a year, not a month. Sorry. So here again, once for you, but in this, what is this modular system? This is exactly the point where you can now remember this, because you will need it again, because I have a nice little tool for you where you can put into practice exactly exactly this, and arrange the skills in a way that it fits into the different courses. So I think the general setting of, we have this 6 theory chapters, we have this skill training in confined water, and then we have the open water dives, and just they just are connected to each other via the basic diver, the scuba diver, and then the open water diver. I think this got quite clear now. I just to have everything complete, we need to have a short look into some certification options. So the open water diver is very clear. The open water diver is the open water diver, is the autonomous diver, and there is no, that's like easy enough. But there are more possibilities to split the course than only scuba diver or an open water diver. We have one which is like a really nice one, which is the referral diver. Referral mean you sit in Germany, and in Germany it's cold and the lakes are not that nice, but you have Montemare and you have Dive for Life, and you have probably access to a pool where you go training from time to time. And this is where dive centers in the wintertime often do theory and do pool training. And if the students then go to holiday still in wintertime and do not want to finish their open water in a cold German lake in February, they can take the referral diver certification with them, and the kit is transferred to the dive center that does the open water dives, and the receiving dive center only does the 4 open water dives and can certify the student. And this is kind of an official program, like it's an intermediate, it's not a certification, but it's like, hey, this center and this instructor did this part, and then you move it to the next instructor and the next part. This is absolutely useful, specifically with the situation in between Germany and warmer places. Yeah. So I mean, we here in La Palma are more the receiving part of referral divers. And in Germany, you're more likely to do the pool training and then send them here. But it's a very, very, very nice option. For the administration, it's important that you have to buy this whole open water diver thing. And then the first center like just certifies a part of it. And now when you open a course, you can already decide that, okay, this open water course will very likely be done as a referral diver. You can already put this option in, and you can even already choose the dive center where it will be continued, or leave it open because the student still doesn't know where it will go. Then we have this beautiful option for those of you who know Dive for Life and other indoor centers. You can receive a kind of a full certification as an indoor diver, and people can, with this certification, dive as a buddy team in an indoor dive center, because in the course is the whole open water course, all the skills, it's everything done. The only difference to the open water course is that the open water dives are done in an indoor center, and you don't have like real life diving conditions. And this is why, if you want to upgrade from indoor diver to open water diver, you have to repeat all the skills in like a real water, like in a lake, in the ocean, in whatever. But what's maybe interesting to know is that like Dive for Life, for example, does full open water courses. And what they do is that they do the first 2 dives, open water dives 1 and 2, in their center, which is absolutely inside the standards, and then do open water dive 3 and 4 in a lake in some moment. So then they can issue a normal open water diver certification. But at least this last 2 dives have to be in a real open water environment. But it's a nice, like, as there are more and more of this kind of centers, it's just a nice thing to have an option. Yeah, and you can do, as they are deep enough, so you can seriously do the full open water training. And you have just to get used to a little bit more of different conditions. More certification options. Careful with junior divers. There is in the standards, in every little part of the standards, there is written explicitly something about kids. Junior divers do have to do the same course. The junior open water is nothing different, zero difference from the adult course. It's the normal course material. They have to do all the skills. They have to understand everything an adult has to understand. The only difference is that there is junior on the open water card, and there may be depth restrictions. It's with 10 and 11, it's maximum 12 meters. And with 12, 13, 14, it's maximum 21 meters for whatever course you're doing. So from 12 years on, you can do like the normal depth open water course with the kids, but 10 and 11 still have this exception of not more than 12 meters.
Also, the ratios vary.
Hmm?
Is there also a variation of the ratios from instructor to students?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You can just not take, it's absolutely, I mean, you are officially allowed to take
It
up
won't
to
be
8.
easy feasible because the kids will take longer and need more explanation and more care, right?
Yeah. And you can't have like a bunch of 8, 10 years old in the water. It's like you can't. No one can. It's like, this is like, you come out with 8. Like you come out with 6, luckily. So no way to do this. There are special restrictions. It's like a maximum of 2 when they are 10 and 11. Something that I always have to look up, because it's like, okay, it can be a group of 4, but when only one is under 12, something like this. You do not have to know this by mind, but you have to be able to look this up. And if someone asks you like, hey, we have one 11, one 13-year-old, and then the 2 parents, can we do the course together? You should quickly look up if you really can, because maybe this is outside the ratios. I think 11, 13 and parents are okay, but then one more person would mean, no, that's not okay anymore. And as we have to be especially careful with kids, whenever you're unsecure if this is a good idea, just look it up. Anyway, we normally stay way beyond what's allowed. Like when I would have 11, 13 and the parents, I would not want to do this without an assistant, because that's like problems waiting to happen.
I would not do this with the parents anyway.
Oh yeah, that's exactly the. If you have, you can do parts together, and then you just make up something while you split them up for the, at least for the underwater part, or split them up completely. It makes so much sense.
Parents are way too busy watching over the kids, being worried and not paying attention enough for their own skills. And yeah, because adults, I think they can do it anyway, so they not focus on the correct execution of their own skills, I think. Okay.
It's like then you have these parents who want to co-teach, and they try to explain their kids, and you just listen and think, you know, for some reason it's me doing the explications, because that's not what we wanted to tell them, honestly. It's like, no.
Yeah.
No, very good idea. Like, separate them. Okay, and then there's like a very last certification option. It does happen not very often. This is just meant for you to remember there is a way to get the certification done with people who have been diving for a long time already, but do not have a certification for whatever reason, because there is this experienced diver test. It's sometimes like for people who come from the military, or sometimes for people who did get a certification like 30 years ago, and then they went diving quite frequently, but they lost their certification, cannot recover it because the agency that issued it does not exist anymore. you don't have to start. Sometimes you have to start at 0 anyway, but if you see you don't have to, there is an option to only do like the open water dive and once one big skill review, go through all the skills once in confined water, then see the skills once in open water, and then you are done. But it's nearly the whole open water course, so it does not make so much of a difference, honestly. Huh? So I am actually working on a standards quiz that you will be able to see a little bit later. And I have one link for you that I will put in the WhatsApp, because I think that's where you all can access it nicely. This is for now in German, but yeah, it does work as well already in English and in Spanish. I can quickly share this window just to show you what I'm talking about, and then we are like done for today. It is here. Do you see this tool now? Or do you see something weird? Because I'm not sure what I'm sharing. No, I'm not yet. Tag. Firefox. Yes, okay. You should see this now, right? This is a cute little tool where you find in one place like all this theory. You find things that you have to do at the shore with your students. Skills at the surface, skills in confined water in the shallow part and in the deep part of confined water. And you can nicely arrange this into what exactly is inside the basic diver. So, okay, basic diver is basically the first part of theory. Then we have here the second and the third. And you can say, okay, I will teach basic diver already to assemble the equipment and like move this here. Following the standards. So look into the descriptions. Where do you find this exact information? Like which skills are in which course? This is not in the standards. This is in the pro view on the open water course. This is where you find the information, which skills have to be done in which course. And for sure, as the basic diver is, let's say, people don't have to do the basic diver certification, but as the skills from the basic diver are all included in the scuba diver, you put only the next ones in the scuba diver, and then only the things that are missing in the scuba diver come in the open water diver field. And then you can just go here and check, and whatever was not correct will just go back to the left side. So you can try again where it has to go. So if you put this in the open water, for example, it will just disappear here. Yeah, but again here, yeah, okay, no, yeah, then we put it here. Yeah, so this is something that you can use to play around with it. And to get a little bit clearer how it all fits together. Once we're done with this and we have the logic of the course, the next step is that you organize your course in different environments with all skills. In this, we still don't have all the skills, just a part of it.